Hey everyone, welcome to my Shark Week card event for 2025. Today we're going to make a slimline mixed media card. Hey everyone, it's Joy here and welcome to my channel. Okay, so I am starting with the letter S from the Bold Letters Solid Stamps L through V, and I am using Distress Oxide inks. This one is Antique Linen, and I'm just going to stamp a few S's onto the background. I'm also going to add just a little bit of dried Marigold to some of the edges just to give it this two-toned colored look on the background. Now, depending on where you place these, a lot of it's going to get covered up. On my card right here, I definitely can see one of them for sure. I stamped a few, but I just love it as part of the background because we're going to be spelling out the word summer. So your homework for this video was to die cut the word summer from the alpha dies twice from white cardstock, and then trim a slimline card panel to 8 1/4 by 3 1/4, and then you're going to make a slimline card base, which is 8 1/2 by 3 1/2. I'm using mixed media white cardstock from scrapbook.com. I love their mixed media cardstock. Number one, it's super thick, so I love it for a lot of things. But as far as like it taking a lot of ink and water and sprays, it works really, really nice. So I'm going to get a few of these going here onto the background. Again, you're not going to see all of them, but I think that's kind of part of some mixed media cards is you have these, parts of your card that are just a little bit visible. And I just think all the layering makes all the difference. Now I am going to be having a giveaway. Of course, all these videos have a giveaway. You have to have a giveaway in Shark Week. I will be verbally asking you a question towards the end of the video. Definitely respond in the comments. In the live chat that is going on, because this is a premiere video, not in the comments down below, but you'll see a live chat going on. I will have listed what is being given away today, and I will also list there who the winner is. So if you are the winner, email me at createitwithjoy@gmail.com, your preferred email address for something to be sent to, and your mailing address, because it might be a gift card or it might be product. So yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later, but we are just into the second week of my Shark Week card event. So take your time stamping. I'm going to take my distress sprayer and spritz the letters just a little bit. I kind of want them to almost bleed. The edges bleed a little bit. So you can see that that's happening just the tiniest bit. So add a decent amount of water, and then when you get it to where you like it, take a dry towel or paper towel, whatever you have on hand, and just gently tap off the excess. If you want more in certain areas, just spritz more. And so that's what I'm going to be doing here. You're also giving it that water droplet look, that is so nice with Distress Oxide inks. But then again, I wanted that to bleed. And then I'm just going to use my heat tool to get this dry for our next step. So we're going to be stamping. We will be adding some rub-ons, and they're so pretty. We will also be using some Distress paste and a stencil that we've used on some other projects. So we've got a lot of fun things going on here. So I'm going to get this good and dry for the next step. I think I'm doing the rub-ons on the next step. So the rub-ons that we're using, and I had it listed for you guys in all the products. I do have everything listed and linked below. So if you're coming in now and you didn't get it ahead of time, I do have all the products down below in the description for you if you wanted to check those out. But we're going to be using the 49 and Market Summer Stories rub-on transfers. They're so beachy and so beautiful. I just love them so much. So I spritzed that again. I wanted that to be a little more muted, but look at the two-toned color on there. Isn't that so pretty? Okay, we are not doing the rub-ons next. I'm so sorry. We are going to be doing some ink smooshing, and I like to do it with some acetate. This is something that is kind of newer to me. So I'm going to smoosh my ink. I am using Salvaged Patina. I'm spritzing it with water and then breaking it up with my finger. I want to take this to my background. My background is a little bit wet right here. That's totally fine. And I feel like with the acetate, I have a little more control. I'm going to use that word loosely, of where my ink is going to go and in what spots, and I can see where I want to smush it to, and it's going to leave some really interesting lines and marks, and I think it turned out really, really pretty. I am going to dry in between this because when I do it again, I don't want all the work that I just did previously to go away, meaning like at the bottom there I have kind of a nice dark line. I want to keep that. So if I left it wet, I would just move it around again and it wouldn't stay. Now, is it going to move a little bit when I add more wetness to it? Yes, but not as much as it would if I had left it wet. So I'm going to do more of the Salvaged Patina, stamping my ink pad onto the acetate, spritzing it with some water, moving it around with my finger. Now, depending on how much ink and how much water you're putting down, that's going to depend on how dark or how light it is. So, you know, that is definitely your personal preference on how much of what you want to use. And you just have to play around with that. I'm going to dry that. And I love it going over those letters that we stamped. I think it's so pretty. I am really thrilled with how this card turned out because I really didn't have a full vision of what I wanted. I was just going for it. I think that is kind of how it is a lot with mixed media cards, is that you just start somewhere, you have a loose idea and you just start and then it just kind of takes its own direction. But I am in love with how this card turned out. It's one of my favorites and it's just so fun to me. Okay, so now that that's dry, let's bring in Uncharted Mariner. I love this color for the darker. So I'm just going to start with a little bit of this because it can be extremely overpowering and I don't want to cover up all that gorgeous Salvaged Patina. So I just barely stamped any on my acetate. I added a little bit of water. I'm going to do it again. You can see I'm not even stamping it fully. I'm just getting a little bit of the outside because I would rather redo this multiple times than have it being too dark and going, man, I'm either going to have to start over or live with something I'm really, really not happy with. So I did that a couple times. We got some good dark marks there and it did not overpower the Salvaged Patina, but I love Uncharted Mariner. It definitely is a tealish color, which is my favorite kind of colors. Like aquamarine is my favorite, teal, turquoise, love it all. I'm going to dry the back just a little bit too to help some of that to get dry. Look at how pretty that is. To me, it totally looks like water splashing. I just think it's so super pretty. I think I'm deciding if I'm going to do something else. But I love that. You can see the letters. You can see the two different colors. You can see that I have some of the darker colors going on here as far as splotches of the color that we got from the acetate. I am loving that. I decided to bring in a little bit of Salvaged Patina around, just lightly going over some of the areas that we ink smushed. I do this sometimes on some of my cards, not all of it, but it's going to help soften a lot of the white, although I don't want to cover up all of the white either. So it's really, really light. And what I have found is when you ink blend over where you've ink smushed, it kind of softens some of the edges and it looks even prettier. So I am going a little bit heavier in those areas and it just really softens it. I'm not covering it up. I'm just taking the edges and making them not so harsh. Oh, I think that looks so pretty. I love that. Okay, let me get this scooched. Nope, I'm not doing that. I thought I was going to be moving that acetate out of the way. Let's use, let me see. I do some splatter, that's for sure. So let me get that out of the way and let's splatter some of this dried marigold onto the background. I think I was deciding if I was going to ink smush or splatter. Glad I went with splatter because I didn't want to make a funny green on the background. So I'm going to splatter this pretty good with that color. And that just adds a little something extra to that background. Let me wipe that off my surface. I'm using scrapbook.com's crafty cloths to clean up. I'm sure I've talked about them before on my videos. They come in black and pink, but they come on like a paper towel roll, and they're perforated and you pull them off, but they're reusable and you totally can wash them and reuse them again and again and again. And I have like 20 million of them and I use them all the time. Okay, we're getting this nice and dry. Let me grab, I think I'm going to grab my next ink. I think we're going to splatter some more. Oh, nope, I'm going to do a little more ink blending. Down here. Again, this is personal preference on how you want yours to look, but obviously I wanted that to be a tad bit darker. But I'm not going dark with the ink, if that makes sense. So I'm using a very light color and just building up the color. And I just keep cleaning my ink surface so I don't get something I don't want on here. I mean, I think it would hide well, but you know, who wants to be upset you have a big old thumbprint on your on your card? I mean, I've done it too many times. Okay, let's pull out our 49 in Market Summer Stories rub-on transfers. Aren't they so pretty? I love these so much. I love the sentiments. I love the images. I love the starfish images. I think they're so fun. Of course, the seashells are gorgeous. I know I've talked about having so many seashells in my house and coral, and I do have starfish. I love it all. All right, let me see. I think I'm going to pull out both of these. So I think there is 2 sheets in this. Tons of fun images. There's bubbles, there's sentiments, there's sea life. Oh, there's a cute bicycle on that one. Yeah, binoculars, just fun little things. So we're going to use sentiments, we're going to use images, we're going to use bubbles, we're going to use just some like geometric shapes. And yeah, so we are going to use all of those types of things. So pick what you like, pick what your favorites are, and definitely we're going to start laying those out and finding what we like to use. So I'm going to cut mine apart on the things that I want. I'm going to start with this sentiment here at the top because I do know there's certain things I kind of want more up front and visible, and other things I don't mind if they kind of fall to the background. I definitely want this sentiment to be seen. We are creating another sentiment from die cuts. That was part of your homework. And I know that that's going to kind of go over this a little bit. So I'm just thinking about that design because the word summer will be centered in the slimline panel. So I'm going to place this down, making sure that I'm getting it on straight, although it's not the end of the world if it's not. These are handmade cards. They are not going to be perfect, and that's part of the charm. So if you don't get something on straight, it's okay. And I say this because I do a lot of things that are just slightly crooked all the time. So okay, I'm going to press this down. Now you can run these through the die cut machine. I don't remember why I chose not to do that. Probably to give you guys more time to do your thing for these videos, since this is so you guys can craft along with me. But I'm using the Pick Pro tool, and it has a few different ends. And one of the ends is like this kind of rectangular plastic end. And I'm using it to burnish my transfers. Now, usually transfers come with some sort of stick that you can burnish with, and that's totally fine. But I really like this. This works really, really, really nice. I saw Cody doing it on one of the scrapbook.com lives. So now I'm going to just peel off the release paper slowly to make sure that if I missed an area, I can just easily lay it back down and burnish it again. Look at how pretty that is. Oh, I love that black against that background. So pretty. Okay, let's find another image here. And we're going to do a few of these. I love these bubbles. I also love that seashell. We're going to use that seashell as well. So let's cut off some of these bubbles. We're going to put that on the left side of the card. If I can get those two pieces separated. Let me put this down here. And then we're just going to burnish that as well. I like these little bubbles. It like totally matches the colors that we're using here. Like it's a little to the green side, which I really do like that. I think that's super pretty. We're going to do a couple more sentiments as well. Like I mentioned, a few geometric shapes and some sea life, which is going to be really fun. I think that got stuck to my work surface and I'm not even sure why I was worried about it right now because I could clean that off later. But look at that. Those bubbles totally look like we stamped those on. I think that's what's so fun about rub-on transfers is they just blend in to your background so nicely. Okay, I'm just deciding what is my next step. You can see there's also some tan bubbles as well that you can put on there, which is really pretty. So let me cut off this big old seashell. We're going to put this down on the right side. And this has some little bubbles around it as well. So I think I burnished some of those on too. I hope I'm going slow enough for you guys to stay caught up with me. I'm trying not to go too fast. I'm so used to speeding up my videos just a little bit that it feels like I'm like extra slow when I'm doing it in real time or really close to real time. So just burnishing this really, really well. And I do, especially on big images like this, I like to go in the opposite direction. So if I missed any little spots, I hopefully will have, burnished them down going the opposite direction. So again, just slowly lift up on that top piece. And if you miss anything, just lay it back down and burnish. Like it's just so not a big deal. And if you have anything hanging over the side of your cardstock, just push it on that side and just rub it down with your fingers. I'm going to do that here. And again, I'm not sure why I'm worried about my work surface so much. I think it's just in my way, and like mentally I'm like, I just have to get that out of the way. Pretty. Okay, so this is the second sheet. I do like those two starfish, so I am going to use those. I think those are really pretty. It brings in that kind of sand color, that tan color, since we do have a lot of blue on here. And I'm just trying to kind of think of like, where is my sentiment going to be? I don't want to cover up everything. So I'm going to slide this down just a little bit. That's perfect. And then let's burnish that. I love it. Oops, sorry, dropping things over here. Give that a nice, good rub. And then we can just peel that back nice and gently. So you can see how this is coming together, and when you are layering things, especially for a mixed media card, the layering I think is what's really important. And I think sometimes, I know for me, I've been very intimidated of doing mixed media cards. And this last, I don't know, maybe year or so, I mean, I've done them before and I really like doing them, but I feel like in this last year or so, I'm really grasping the concept of them, because they always felt so overwhelming to me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on visually. And there is, but when you start doing them, you're just starting with one aspect at a time. And so then it's not overwhelming. So you almost have to move backwards and dissect it and go, well, what's the first thing I need to do? Well, you need to ink your background. However it is you're going to do that. You're going to stamp or you're going to stencil with ink. Do that first. And then you can start adding these other things like the rub-on transfers. We're going to be doing some texture paste. We're going to be adding that. So things like that, it's just all about the layers. And then it really does turn out to be a lot simpler than it looks. So if you notice there, I only rubbed on part of it, and I wasn't even worried if it was perfect. I wanted these pieces to be very imperfect. They kind of are in their design alone, but I definitely was not concerned if part of it didn't stay on. So I just kind of burnished quickly, and I wasn't super concerned if it was perfect or not. And then I just did it in some areas. So I had that one long sheet I was able to do in multiple different areas, and I think it turned out really fantastic. But you definitely want to make sure that your cardstock is dry. And I'm sure I said this before, but I'm going to repeat it again, before you put your rub-ons on, because if it's still wet, when you pull off that release paper, it can pull off some of your cardstock. So just a FYI. All right, I like this other starfish. I am going to use this guy here at the top left. I just love how this is coming together. I think it's looking so beautiful. This is one of my most favorite backgrounds that I've created, probably because it's beachy themed, probably. Who am I kidding? But this really is. I'm really happy with how this turned out. All right, that one little spot was just not wanting to burnish down really well at all, but that is okie dokie. Okay, super cute. I love that. I think that turned out really, really nice. Okay, so now we do have a few little sentiments. I have one that says Summer Lovin' and another one that says Splish Splash, which I think is really cute. So I'm going to use a couple of those and place those in an area that the other sentiment's not going to go over, but I thought it would feel kind of fun. I do think this could also easily translate into a scrapbook page. I think this could be a really nice layout for that as well. So if you're a scrapbooker and you maybe not so much into cards, I think this could translate into that pretty well. So this is the one that says Summer Lovin'. I think I'm going to place this down here. And if you are not aware, you can layer your rub-on transfers over other rub-on transfers. Once you have it down, you can lay over it and burnish that. So that's happening a little bit with that starfish here. So you can kind of create some layers that way. All right, let's get the next sentiment, which says Splish Splash, and that's going to go at the top right. This was a lot of thinking, you guys, because I was like, how am I doing this? What do I like? But that's just kind of how we have to do these things, right? All right, let me grab this other sentiment here. And let's put this at the top right. And that's going to overlay a little bit of the other rub-ons that we put up there. Super cute. And these ones are so quick and easy to burnish down. But if you wanted to lay your stuff down and run it through your die cut machine, you totally can. And then you just peel off the release paper and it works so nice. Really, really, really nice. Okay, super cute. Really, I really love how that looks. Now I'm trying to decide if I grabbed any more. Nope, I think I am good there. Okay, so if you are putting any more rub-ons, we are going to move on to the next thing, which is the stenciling. So we're using Mintay's diamond pattern stencil. I used this on another project, one or two other projects, I think at least one. And I am using Cloud Whip from scrapbook.com. I like it. It dries really fast. Mine's a little bit on the drier side right now, but it's totally perfect. I am just going to stencil in some areas, just little sections. I don't want to stencil over the whole card. I also want this to dry quicker because we got this project to finish. So I am going to do a really thin layer, and Cloud Whip does dry really fast, really fast. So the thinner you go, the quicker it's gonna dry. So I would definitely say go thinner on this project here. And I'm letting it go over some of the areas of the rub-on transfers. That's part of the charm of this, is you kind of want to push those layers back and everything is kind of blending into and things are going over other images. That's part of the layering, I think, of mixed media as well. So I went over that seashell, even though I'll be honest, it was a little difficult because I'm like, oh, the seashell's so pretty, I don't want to cover it. And then I think I watched this from Tiffany Solario, I think, like on SBC Fest. She takes a little bit of the texture paste and feathers out some of the harsh edges. I didn't do it on all, but on some of them, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense, and that looks really nice. So kind of where it ends, I'm just gonna do a little bit of that, of just kind of feathering it out. You don't have to, personal preference, but I really liked how it looked when she did that. I'm going to bring the stencil in and add a little bit more over here on the left. Again, I'm going to do a nice thin layer. And I'm going to bring that down. I don't want to cover, I'm going to be careful on that little sentiment there. I do cover up a little bit of it, but I want to be able to read the sentiment, so I am being mindful of that. And then I'm just kind of rubbing. You can see I'm rubbing my palette knife, which is adding some little bits to some of the areas where you don't have full coverage. And then I'm going to feather out some of those areas and clean up the edges that it's hanging over. Oh, I love how that looks. I really like that stencil. I think it's a fantastic stencil for a lot of things. And it worked really nice on all of these Shark Week cards. Okay. That is done. You can clean everything up or just put it aside in some water. But now we are going to work on our sentiment. So the homework was die cut the word summer from the alpha dies twice from white cardstock, or obviously whatever die set you had. And we're going to spell out summer. Let's glue these together. I die cut mine from mixed media white cardstock. It's ultra thick, like it's so thick. So I only need to do it twice. And it gives you a really nice, good dimensional letter. If you're using something a little less thick, if you're using even like 110 pound Nina, do that 3 times. If you're less than that, do it 4 times. So you can get a nice, good, substantial, dimensional sentiment without having to add foam adhesive behind it, because these are too thin. Who wants to waste the time or the energy to try to make that work? I don't. So we are going to glue these together, and then we're going to do a little bit of inking to these as well so they feel more distressed. I did toy with the idea of leaving them bright white. I do really like to do that on some of my mixed media distressed cards, but this one I'm glad I did not. This one we are going to do a little bit of ink blending. So I'm using my reverse tweezers, my liquid glue. I'm using Artis liquid glue from scrapbook.com. And now I have those glued together. So let's do a little bit of ink smooshing. I'm going to use, I don't think I had done this before this, but I'm going to use the acetate again and just on the letters just to kind of get some color on there quickly. So dried marigold on the piece of acetate, using some water, break that up with your finger. And then I'm just going to smoosh this onto my letters, and wherever it lands, just to give these a little bit of color. So, and it worked. Some got a little more than others, but you just move your acetate around and get some color on there. I think it worked really nicely. Again, I didn't want these to be like a solid color. I still wanted some white to come through, so that's why I chose this way of getting some ink on those letters. I'm going to wipe all that up. And then I'm going to use, you know what, let me dry these really quick. I'm going to use my reverse tweezers and my heat tool to get them a quick dry. And then we're going to use antique linen. And we're just going to rub that on the letters just a little bit. So get them dry. My thing was stuck to it, but yeah, you can see a little bit of that color on there, and I love how that looks. Okay, guys, I am going to ask the question right now. This is for the giveaway, so just comment below so I can pick your name, and then email me at createitwithjoy@gmail.com. And again, the prize is pinned in the comments at the top. So the question is, what is your favorite sea life? Ocean life, like what is your favorite of that? I have a lot of favorites. I love starfish. I think they're so cute and fun. I think dolphins are darling, of course. I mean, who doesn't love a dolphin? I think octopuses are fun, or octopi are just so cute. I love that. And I know seashells don't count as ocean life, but I love seashells too. Did I already mention that on another video, how much I love seashells? But I mean, coral is ocean life, right? Are those alive? Is coral alive? Or is it just a plant? If it's an ocean life, it's my favorite too. Anyways, let me know down in the comment what your favorite is. And I do think little manatees are pretty darn cute. Don't you think they're cute? Otters are cute. I consider them ocean life because I see them at Morro Bay all the time. I don't know. I love a lot of them. So yeah, let me know. And then I will draw the winner and put that in the live chat comments. I am taking my scissors and just gently distressing the letters. Normally I would say, I don't think it needs it. And again, it's your personal preference, but I think they need it on this card. I think it would be a little too clean if you didn't add some. But again, it's your card. Make it how you want. That's just my opinion. For me, I needed them to be a little distressed. So just opening up my scissors and scraping all the edges. And I think it turned out super lovely. And this is a long word, so it fits really nicely on a slimline card. Okay, those are done. Now I'm going to bring in the antique linen and just rub the ink pad in some of the areas. I'm going to catch some of those edges that we just distressed with our scissors. I don't want to cover up all of the dried marigold, so I am paying attention to that. More to the edges of it, and then that's going to give it another nice color. So let's just get a few more of these done. Just keep using your ink pad and just rubbing that on there. And I kept it these other colors, I did not add any blues because there was so much blue on the background and I loved it so much. I didn't want to distract from that. I wanted to see the sentiment, but then look past it to the background. So that's kind of why I chose these other colors. Look at how pretty those are. I love it. Okay, let's line up our sentiment. Now I'm using a T ruler, which is really odd for me. I can't believe I actually pulled this out because I always just eyeball. So maybe I was thinking for your guys' benefit. Who knows? Again, I made this card forever ago, so who knows? But I'm using a T ruler. So I have the T part lined up on next to my glass mat, making sure my paper is lined up on the grid. I'm just getting a rough idea of how far up I need to go with my other ruler, kind of where I want the sentiment to go. It's on the lower half of center. It's not perfectly centered top to bottom. It is centered side to side. So I'm going to pull my ruler down just a little bit, making sure again that my cardstock is nice and straight on the grid on my glass mat. And then I'm just going to lay these out, kind of getting, I think I am eyeballing from side to side. So But I'm cracking up at myself that I'm even using a ruler. That's really funny. And I think it makes sense for the most part when you're doing them, and hopefully I did it here. No, I didn't. I'm starting on normally I start in the center, but maybe because I'm using the ruler that I'm not. So I'm going to make sure that the bottom of the R touches my ruler. I'm really pressing down on my ruler so it doesn't slide underneath it. You know what I mean? And then I'm going to press that down, and then I'm just going to work my way apparently from right to left. I kind of am funny. Who knows why I did this so different than I normally do. Get my E going right there. And then we're just going to work our way across. Again, reverse tweezers. I know we talked about this on one of the other videos that, you know, when I first started using them, it was funny. I would squeeze them thinking I was holding it, and I kept dropping it. I'm like, why do I keep dropping it? It was so funny. Anyways, reverse tweezers are our best friend for sure. I think they are definitely a must-have in your craft room. It keeps your fingers out of the way when you're gluing things down, so that way you can see if it's straight or not. That's the main reason for me. Like, I can actually see where I'm putting things without my own hands being in the way. So we're getting that M down. And then we have 2 more letters to go. Let me put this in place. I hope you guys are enjoying the Shark Week card event. I'm having a good time. I love chatting with you guys live while the video is going on. It is so fun. You guys are so much fun. And it feels like you get to craft with somebody. You know what I mean? Make a card with somebody. All right, let's get on to this S. I must be doing this for your guys' benefit, honestly. I am never this picky. Now, when you are gluing over the texture paste, you know, hold it down for a second, and liquid glue is perfect for this. It's really going to hold once it's dry. It's not going to go anywhere. All right, let's use Mintay's Coastal Memories paper stickers words. We've used these on some other cards. We're going to use Enjoy the Sunshine Sentiment. It is sticky, so I'm going to, I don't know if I adhered this to paper or not. I did. I'm going to stick it to some cardstock, and then I'll just trim around it with some scissors. And we'll do a little bit of distressing to this as well. And then I will also add some foam adhesive behind this. It looks like I used 2mm foam adhesive. So scissors, a little distressing, and then we will do a little bit of inking as well. That'll be perfect. And I'm using dried marigold. And that sentiment above that we put on the, with the rub-on transfers, says summer vibes, loving summer vibes, summertime vibes. Like, I just think that's so fun. And then we have summer and enjoy the sunshine. It's all about the summer. But think about doing this for anything. You could make this card in any theme that you wanted to. There's so many rub-on transfers out there. You could do whatever you wanted with that, which is fantastic. Okay, so now that we're done using the dried marigold on the edges, let's add that foam adhesive. And remember, this card panel is smaller. I had you cut it to 8 1/4 by 3 1/4. So when you adhere it to your slimline card base, it'll be slightly smaller, and it's going to have a nice white mat around it, which is awesome. But we're going to do a little bit of distressing to the edges of this card panel. Let me just get this centered. Perfect. Okay. So scissors again, let's distress the edges of this. And then we're going to use a little bit of salvaged patina on the edges after we do the distressing. A lot of times I leave it white, but I felt like this definitely could use the salvaged patina on the edges. And this cardstock, the mixed media, you can be a little bit rougher with your scissors. I mean, you still can rip it, don't get me wrong, but it takes a lot of effort. And then whatever's left over on my blender brush, I am just going to rub that gently onto the edges where we just did the distressing. I did not add any ink to that. You could, depending on how light or dark you want that to be. Okay, let's adhere it to our panel. I added some tape runner and a little bit of liquid glue, and I'm doing that because this cardstock is a little warped from all the liquid that we added to it. So you have your tape runner, which is going to hold it in place immediately, and then your liquid glue is really going to hold that down. So that's just something I like to do. I'm going to give everything a nice good press, and then that is done. I'm just going to hold that down, really making sure that liquid glue, and it's my liquid glue that I use, which I think most grab onto it and dry pretty quick, so you don't have to like hold it forever. But I'm paying close attention to like the edges and the corners, because that's where it's going to want to lift the most. So I'm giving everything a really nice good press. Let's take a look at this up close. I am loving this so much. Look at all of that detail that we added with the inking, the stamping, the rub-on transfers, the stenciling with the paste, all the fun sentiments. I just think this turned out so amazing. I love all of the detail to this. It is so pretty. So thank you guys for joining me for another Shark Week card event video. And I will see you guys for another video here real soon. Have a wonderful night. Bye.